Let me ask you a couple of other real quick questions, too. Is this gotten to the point where you thought life just wasn't worth it anymore, or that there wasn't any reason to go on?
No, it hasn't gotten that bad. But I could see it. Getting there.
Could see it. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that.
I don't know. I mean, there's just times where I just don't have a sense of humor about it. And I find myself feeling a little scared of myself. Mm-hmm. Like I don't bounce back from it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I get some downtime, you know, an hour to myself or something, and I don't bounce back. I'm just as bad as I was an hour before. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of keeps piling up. And I don't know how to get back to my regular level. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just never get back there. I never go. I don't know what to do. I mean, maybe it's just the sleep. Maybe I just need to have good sleep. I mean, vitamin B. I don't know what I need.
Well, good sleep will certainly help.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of other things, too. I want to focus on that for just a moment, though, because when you said that, when I asked you that, and your response was, well, I can imagine it being, that seemed like, to be very direct, it was almost a crack in the veneer somehow. Before, it was pretty obvious that you're angry with your husband and pretty irritable, and I certainly have a good sense of humor that covers a lot of things, but that was the first time that I felt really like I could see a little bit of the distress. I mean, am I on target there, or what's going on inside?
I just don't... I mean, sometimes I just find myself feeling very hopeless. Nothing's restoring me, you know? I'm not getting back to the place where I feel okay about things, you know? And it just feels like... I mean, I love Todd, but I just... You know, I mean, I feel horrible about this, about the way I look, and I feel like, you know, I mean, when all I do is like breastfeed and talk baby talk and everything, I just feel like I'm a breed sow. Like, how could he possibly find me attractive for very long? How is he possibly going to want to stay married to me? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I feel like who I was is not who I am anymore, and that's not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't make that bargain. That just happened. You know, it's like all of a sudden I've turned into my mother, and this isn't what I wanted. I mean, I love her too, but I just don't want to be her. I don't want to make her choices, so...
Right. This is just, again, vastly different than what you were expecting to have happen.
Yeah.
In the segment that you just saw, there was a great example of how asking questions in IPT makes a big difference. So instead of simply asking a list of questions, attending to the patient's affect and even querying about that is really important. It gives you a lot more information and really helps the patient to describe a little bit more about how they're feeling and how they're struggling with things. If you recall the comment I made about having a crack in the veneer, that followed an observation that she had a change in affect as she was describing some of the symptoms. And asking about that made a huge difference. We hit a deeper level, a deeper connection, and got a lot more valuable information than simply asking a checklist of questions. In the next segment, I'll be conducting an interpersonal inventory with the patient. Before reviewing that, what I'd like to do is briefly review with you the structure of IPT. As you can see, there are 4 different segments of IPT. The assessment or initial sessions, those might last anywhere from 1 to 3 sessions, depending on the complexity of the case. The middle section of IPT, in which specific problem areas are addressed, and then the conclusion of IPT. That's followed by maintenance, and it's critical in IPT to recognize that there isn't a termination. We're obligated, I think, based on the data that we have, and certainly clinical experience, to provide some kind of maintenance treatment. So rather than terminating, it's a conclusion. The acute phase is ended, but we're continuing to provide some maintenance treatment as the patient needs it. It's important in IPT to recognize that this structure is very much like an accordion. In other words, it has a structure to it. These things have to be done in order, but they're all flexible. And what that means is there is not a set number of sessions for each one. The assessment may take a session or two, with more complex patients, say. The middle sessions may take less than 8 sessions if the problem area is restricted or if the case is relatively straightforward. Sometimes it takes more than that. And the conclusion phase may take more than 2 sessions if you have somebody who's a little bit more dependent and you want to taper off sessions. So I think it's important to recognize there's a lot of flexibility in IPT, and by no means is there a dictate that you have to do 12 sessions or 16 sessions or any number of sessions with every single patient. That simply doesn't make good clinical sense, it's not supported by the research, and it doesn't make sense in terms of the complexity and variety of patients that we see. So it should be structured but flexible.